the channel. Uh, I didn't even know this was going to work because I was trying to record and it was telling me that I needed a video encoder. Turns out all I needed to do was restart the stupid camera. Logitech C922, everybody. I'm not recommending it. Anyway, we're back with more Crime Story. We're doing Season 1, Episode 3. It's called Shadow Dancer. So, full spoilers if you've not seen this episode. So, a few things. The narration over at the beginning of the episode. First off, I'm doing these not just because I really wanted to always talk about this show, but also to get people to watch it. So I'm hoping that some people aren't just watching this and getting kind of a thrill talking about it, but actually watching it on Amazon Prime or the DVDs. I can't highly recommend watching this enough if you're a mobster lover, if you like Michael Mann, if you like just good, solid shows that still hold up despite some, dated material. But look at that, Ted Levine, man, look how young he is. Also, this show is filmed in Chicago. I stayed through the credits of this episode to make sure, because I was like, there's no way this is LA in this episode. So that's really cool. It makes me wish, man, I really wish I had been older. Well, no, I don't. But, I wish I could time travel back to, the set of watching this get made, because it's really fantastic. They really, really use Chicago in a great way. I'm not sure if the pilot was filmed in Chicago, and I wonder if that's why it was harder to make it look like 1963 Chicago. Maybe because it was a pilot, they filmed it in LA. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. I should probably go back and check that out. But that's it. So like like I was saying, the narration, it's going to be a thing every episode. So at the beginning of this episode, we get previously on Crime Story, which then they just show you a bunch of clips like today. But this is like voiceover narration, giving you like word for word like what happened last week. The narrator seems to have his own kind of take on things, which is kind of interesting. And he leads us up to the beginning or the end of last week, leading into this week, where Frank Holman, played by Ted Levine, and his partners are robbing the amethystist. I think I said it right. I think I almost said it right. He's a coin collector. He's a rich coin collector played by, keep doing that perspective thing, Dennis Arndt, who is a character actor he's been in everything. I think the thing I remember most from was playing the lawyer, I think the district attorney on Picket Fences, a show from the early 90s, which was really, really great. I highly recommend that show too. He is a great character actor. He doesn't get much here, but I mean, most character actors, they do their thing and they move on. Same with this lady here. She's been in a ton of stuff throughout the years. But this guy Arndt, he's the coin collector. They get robbed, and then we cut to the credits. So we don't really know what happened at the end during this robbery, other than they open the safe and we cut away. But we find out that, like the cops are playing poker. I thought they were playing strip poker for a second, because some of them are in various degrees of undress. It just turns out, they're like, that's just how they roll. They're relaxing, they're taking off part of their uniforms, playing, a cop poker game, which is a little cliche, but, it's a good cliche. It's funny. But they get the call that there was a home invasion. And we find out when we get to the bad guys what really happened. So Paulie, Frank, and this guy Noonan are splitting up the loot from the robbery, and we find out that they're bad. And that at first it just sounds like they hit the wife. But when they hit the wife, the guy Noonan killed her. And when they, so Paulie kind of goes crazy on him. This is, I swear, Quentin Tarantino watched this episode, because this scene is like Mr. White versus Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs. Paulie comes up to him like, you didn't have to do it, gets the gun in his face. Noonan is calm as all hell and does a Mr. Blonde, like, it's her fault she's dead. If she hadn't have messed with me, if she hadn't have been pushing me, I wouldn't have killed her. That is full on Mr. Blonde right there. Because he's like, like in Reservoir Dogs, he's like, if she hadn't have done what I'd have told her not to do, she'd still be alive. Blaming the victim of the crime for the escalation of the robbery and killing her. It also turns out, too, that Noonan beat his wife to death in a bar. So he's predisposed to violence towards women. And so the robbery is already, they're trying to get out of town, and they're turning on each other. It's Reservoir freaking Dogs in 1986. So, I mean, look, everybody steals from everybody. I don't know. Maybe Tarantino saw this, maybe he didn't. But it sure feels like he got inspiration for this scene, for his scene in this scene. And so the cops go to Novak, who is visibly upset, and they ask him questions, and it's your typical kind of asking tough questions of somebody who's just been through a trauma, but then kind of flipping it and giving him something to do, which the secretary picks up on. That there's really nothing Novak can do. He couldn't describe anybody. He just saw flashes of the gun and no faces. So he kind of gives him like a little bit of a thing to do to try to feel like he has purpose in this, which he really has none. Now it's a waiting game. And so the secretary picks up on this and, is like, oh, that's very nice of you, blah, blah, blah. Kind of setting up a relationship with the secretary for later. This is where we get one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a cop show, where Torello gets a phone call. The secretary answers the phone at Arndt's home. It's for Torello, which is fine. A cop calling the crime scene to talk to another cop, it would be fine, because in the 1960s, they didn't all have, like, radios and everything. What's weird about this is it's not a phone call from the cops. It's a phone call from Frank's wife. So she called, the station, and they patched her through to the crime scene so that she could talk to Frank to tell them, drum roll please, she's having a baby. That's weird. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Maybe I have, but I've seen a lot, and that just struck me as something that stood out as they put it in for a reason to set up that, Torello tells the secretary, oh, I'm having a baby, and kind of there's a scene later with the secretary that kind of because he gives her his number to if she has any information, and then there's kind of a callback, but it just seems like a weird way to do a callback with having his wife call him about being pregnant. It's just weird. So Joey, played by Billy Campbell, I almost said Bruce Campbell, gets information from, they've got tips and they've got people listening in on phones all over the place, and they find out that Frank Holman's girlfriend, Frank Holman, played by Ted Levine, his girlfriend is talking to another person, saying that she's worried that Frank's going to go away because a robbery went and a woman got killed. So they put the connection together that Holman, who is like a locksmith and everything, and is into B&Es, is a part of this. So they Torello and Joey go to intimidate Frank here, which I need to turn my... Hang on, sorry folks. My headphones are very, very good. Oh no, now I turned on my TV. Give me a break. Wow. One thing after another, so professional. Anyway, well, that's what happens when you can't pause your camera and you can't edit things out without the whole thing freezing. So you have to do it all in one shot and hope that you have everything you need it in one take. So anyway, they go to intimidate Frank here, and they pull him out of the car. They know who he is, but Torello pretends to be a dirty cop who lets him go, takes some hush money, tells him if you need anything, you can call the tip line. If you need, call Roy Collins, at the station. So he pretends to be somebody else to get Frank to, flip if he has a problem. Kind of set him up, like as he's got a cop on the inside, which is pretty smart. Although he runs the risk of Frank not knowing who Torello is. Like, there's a very distinct possibility that, that Frank could be playing him. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a risk. But Krycek, Torello's partner, played by Bill Spitrovich, he gets a tip that about Bartoli's floating casino, the one that's in the back of the semi from last week. So they go to put the squeeze on Bartoli, who's played by the great John Polito. So then we get this like kind of nice callback again to the Connolly family fund. The Connolly's the person that died, I believe, in the first episode. He takes the money that Frank puts him in, puts that in there. So it's a nice callback that we're not forgetting the past, like some other police procedural that just goes crime, like crime to crime to crime to crime to crime. No, this is still a show that has a flow. There is a baseline show going on. Like, there's a through line through this whole thing. And when we have this nice sweet scene with Torello and his wife, kind of having their own little private baby shower, and that's when I noticed that the set, I believe, is the same set that they've used for everything. And because it's got the same background, the same blinds and everything, and I think that they just, for a lot of interiors, they just use, to save money, they just the same set over and over and over again. And I'm sure it happens a lot. But these days, with like lots of multi-camera shows and things like that, they can't just do that. And this isn't a single set show. But with the amount of money that this show probably cost, it was probably like one of the easiest things to do. So this is where Novak's secretary calls while him and his wife are trying to, just enjoy a nice night by themselves. So she calls him out, and this really goes nowhere, but maybe it'll come back later with like a lot of other things. There's that Connolly family fund I was talking about. So maybe this will come back later, but she kind of draws him out with like, seeing as how a concerned cop he is, gives him like a possible thing that could lead to something, but it really isn't why she asked him to come out there. She really asked him to come out because she's got an abusive boyfriend, and she thought maybe, he's a nice guy. I don't know if she was asking him to rough that guy up, or if she was interested in like kind of starting something with Torello. I actually kind of wondered if that's what was going on and whether Torello would fall for it or not, or be up for that. And it's nice to see like they didn't. I think what they might be setting up is a future storyline, maybe, where he does something about the boyfriend, or the boyfriend does something to the secretary, which leads to Torello doing something about the boyfriend. Or it could go nowhere. But it feels like if it wasn't there for some reason, why was it there at all? Because it goes nowhere in the rest of this episode. But Bartoli's casino gets busted out. This is a really fun scene because Smitrovich and Polito really get to go all out on this. So they're busting up these people in the back of the semi-trailer. He buzzes the driver, who tries to take off with everyone inside. So everybody goes like careening back in the car, and it's really funny. But the cops are outside, so they stop the driver, and Krycek and Bartoli have this great squaring off, where Bartoli doesn't know why this is happening. Criminal, but he's one of those like I can't be touched kind of criminals. Like, I'm protected, which means, it sounds to me like when you say that, it doesn't just mean, oh, you're a high-ranking criminal. It means you have people that are on the up and up protecting you. People that shouldn't be. Like higher-ups in the police department or in, Chicago politics, which Chicago corruption, what are you talking about? There's no corruption in Chicago. It's the most decent city in the world. But Krycek's basically like, we don't care. Okay, you've got some guy operating out there that killed a woman in a robbery, and we're going to be coming down hard on all of you dudes until you give him up. And so what they do is they burn all the casino money in front of him. And it's like a statement more than anything, because the people that go to the casino, they don't care about money. It's like Bartoli says, this is where he just gets his kicks. So even though they burned $35,000, which is a lot of money even by today's standards, back then, $35,000, man, that was a lot of money. And so this pisses off Bartoli enough to go to Ray Luca, who's, trying to stay out of the crimes and letting his guys just, do the stuff in themselves and then give everybody their kicks. He has to get pulled out of his house to get the, business from Bartoli, who's like, this isn't how it's done. The robbery never should have went down this way. I don't care how you get rid of this guy that did it, but it has to go down. It can't touch me. It can't touch you. If it gets back to any of us, we're all screwed. So figure it out. So that means Ray has to figure out a way to take out Noonan while pleasing Bartoli, but at the same time it has to please the cops. It can't just be, oh, he's just gone, and the crime can't go unsolved. Meanwhile, the cops were there witnessing this exchange and just waiting to follow where the information that they set up was going. It's all really cool. I mean, like, really well done. Like, I don't see a lot of things like this even today. By today's standards, if they did the things in this in most cop stuff today, oh my gosh, most cop stuff today would actually be pretty good instead of just boring, same old, churning them out like every week, crap. Let's see, make sure I get here, get rid of the guy. Yep, so cops were there. So Polly and Frankie pay off Noonan, the guy, Mr. Blonde type guy. And Ray comes to Frank and Polly and says, like, you got to get rid of him. So Frank sets up Noonan. He says there's a job, and so they go to set up this new, like, B&E, where they're going to set Noonan up for a fall. Meanwhile, there's this scene between Torello and his wife at a furniture store. The guy in the furniture store, I couldn't find his name in the credits. He is also a very well-known Chicago character actor. He's been in everything. I think the thing that I'm popping out for some reason in my mind, and I know his name causes a lot of people to have their butts twitch. He was on that Louis C.K. show called Louie that was on HBO that had Pamela Adlon, and it was like a single camera sitcom that was like before Louis C.K. was really famous. I remember him from that. But he's been in a ton of things as far as Chicago goes. Well, he's playing this like scam where they paid for a table that's in North Carolina, and he's giving them the runaround, and they want their money or the table. Frank loses his cool in the store, mostly probably because the furniture man says he's got a bouncer who handles he calls him the complaint department. Torello doesn't take kindly to this because he feels like he's disrespecting his wife, which he is. But he grabs the guy in the store and tells him, if I have to come back here to get this table, you're not going to like what happens. And what I like is the flip on this. That Torello's wife is like, I've never been so embarrassed in my life. And Torello's like, yeah, I know, that guy was a real piece of work. But she is mad at him for just flying off the handle and starting, she calls it what did she call it? A street brawl. It wasn't exactly a street brawl. It was two guys in a furniture store having a pretty heated argument. It's the difference between that and a street brawl. Plus, they weren't on the street. But she's, talking about him and his temper and how the job is affecting him. And, seeing this kind of back and forth is really nice. And also the wife calling him out. Like, you got to calm down. This is, we've got a family we're starting here. They want it to be like this. So this kind of gives Torello a lot to think about, and he sees Joey again, played by Billy Campbell, who's the new kid, who's still in, he's taking classes and stuff to be possibly a district attorney or a lawyer someday. And Torello's like, look, this is all great and everything, but if you're going to, be starting a family and things like that, you might want to get out of this. Learn what you can here from us, and then make that, makes you a better lawyer or whatever. Use that and then get out of this if you can, because it's gonna do to you probably what it's already done to me. because Torello can't quit, and he won't change. So it's just a lot more detail and character than most cop shows give each other. And I know I'm saying these things, but I'm just trying to reiterate how this show got forgotten and lost is beyond me. Especially with nostalgia, these everything. And I hope, like, if this goes off of Prime, I'm gonna have to find the DVDs or something. I'll probably buy the DVDs, even though like after the fact. So the cops find out from Krychek. He says, we got Noonan, we know who he is, and but Torello's like, if we pinch this guy right now, Ray will find out that they know about Frank. Frank will know about them, and that they'll know how close they are to Ray's crime organization. They're trying to stay stealthy about this and need to know, and using all their that and wiretaps. This is starting to show Torello's obsession with catching Ray. And I'm hoping that my camera didn't just completely freeze up on me again, because it's getting all slow and weird. Oh, brother. Was I really talking for that long? Anyway, so we get to the job. So Frankie and Paulie do the job. They break into a place, they take a bunch of stuff, and what they do is they give it to Noonan. He's like the getaway driver. And so he has the stuff, and they call it in. And they say that this guy Noonan has a bunch of stolen stuff in his car. He's going to be driving by in like 5 minutes. If you stop him, then you'll have him for both things. You'll have him in custody, and then you'll be able to get him for the Novak killing. So it lets the cops get a while they get away basically scot-free, and Torello will be able to keep his standing with Ray not knowing what they're doing, and Torello will also still have Frank, because Frank still thinks he's talking to a crooked cop. So, but Noonan picks up on this, and we get this like really legit, like really, really cool. It's very tense. Of the Chicago Road. Good Lord, now it's like a veal. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see me now. It's like my screen's completely frozen. Oh, man. Like the whole thing just like is buffering. Hopefully we can finish this up. So this is all really done really well, and he flies off and crashes his car and begins a foot chase. So now they've got to chase him. They've got the lights hanging out the side of the car, and then they have this great fight. Torello and Noonan are punching each other on a bridge that starts raising up, and I'm just like, I don't know if I've ever seen two guys fighting on a raised bridge like this, especially in 1986. But it's like ding, 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 and they're knocking each other out. Frank ends up at the top, and Noonan, I keep calling him Frank, I think it's Mike Torello. Torello ends up at the top, and he's trying to hold on to the criminal, and he's like, help me, help me. But as he gets pulled up, he grabs Torello's face, and Torello lets him go. The thing is like, he slides down, right? So he's up like this. They show it, and he's like, he slides down, and apparently he dies from that. I would have just had a really bad rug burn, but apparently he died from the fall, which, whatever. They needed an end to it, so, you know, even though it would have made more sense if he had just straight fallen, but he slid. So the criminal dies, and Torello says, you know, justice is served. There's a few good lines in this about, like, justice is not that easy. It doesn't come out of a book. Very hard-boiled detective sounding stuff. There was another line in here too. What did he say? When they first pull over Frank, he's like you want to talk nice? You want to be a goof. You want to be a goof? We can talk in the showers downtown. So this is very, you know, like Pulp Fiction-y. Oh, you know, there you go. Very hard-boiled detective stuff. That's the end of the episode. We get another to be continued, which I feel like is going to be something that happens in every episode. So, despite, I'm sorry for all these camera issues that I keep happening, yeah, even now it's like things are popping up on my screen that shouldn't be there. It's so bizarre. Logitech, everybody. Logitech cameras. They're the best. So anyway, the point is, that was another really great episode, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying talking about it. I hope some of you are actually watching the show, or at least remember it enough to enjoy this little discussion and review. So if you did like this review, please hit the like button, despite that you might not be able to always see me talking. You can hear me probably just fine. And we are at 20 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. Maybe when I hit 1,000, I'll be able to afford better camera. I don't know. I'm thinking about just getting a regular straight camera and then just trying to like upload it to my my system and being able to edit there. That's the dream right now, because this thing is just not. I don't know if the camera is just too powerful for my laptop, but it wasn't like this before the update. That's all I can keep saying to everybody. So anyway. This is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying, like I said, please like if you like it. Please subscribe if you're enjoying the content despite the technical difficulties. Hey, you know, there's something to be said for unpolished work, but whatever. So this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying we'll be back next week with episode 4. Otherwise, comic reviews are coming. We have Watchmen's newest. We got His Dark Materials newest. We've got Doom Patrol that just uploaded. We've got, oh yeah, this comes up like tomorrow. So comic reviews are probably already coming. Anyway, have a great day. And we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, Mandalorian. Mandalorian's going to Fridays. So whatever The Leftovers was on Fridays, so we're going to be doing We'll see you guys on the next video.